Oh, yes, it is. It is a Friday episode, man. We're almost there. The weekend is almost here. Weekend is over as soon as we are finished around 3 o'clock today. Donno Daily here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Remember, the 5 Reasons Sports Network, the YouTube channel, 5reasonsports.com, all the podcast channels. We are your one-stop shop for everything South Florida sports and even bonus stuff like betting coverage, combat sports coverage. I do a combat sports show every week on Thursday evenings. We had a really fun one last night. So make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, turn the notifications on, and yeah, do us a solid. Whether you're watching us live right now at 2 p.m. on Friday or you watch us via replay, doesn't matter when you watch, smash the like button, hit that thumbs up button, and spread the love so everyone sees this. I'm excited to talk more Canes today than we have recently. I'm not going to neglect the Dolphins. I'm not going to neglect the Heat, who take on the Knicks tonight, but I do want to have much more of a Miami Hurricanes focus on this episode because ever since I came back early this week from my adventure down in Jamaica, where I spent most of last week on vacation, a lot of stuff has happened with Miami since then. Miami's got a new transfer cornerback, Daryl Porter, who comes from West Virginia. Highly touted. He's a South Florida native, so he gets in the transfer portal, comes back home. Coaches had a lot of nice things to say about him in West Virginia. He had a breakout year last year in 2021 as a true freshman, as a redshirt freshman. So I like the fact that he still has 3 years of eligibility left. And yeah, this happened last week or over the weekend while I was away. We've talked about it a little bit, but we haven't talked about it a whole lot. He hit another home run, did Mario Cristobal, with his coaching staff, hiring a former multiple-time head coach around the country and also a very highly touted defensive assistant. But Charlie Strong, who was a very successful head coach at Louisville, a little bit less successful in his other stops, Texas and USF, but a 3-time big-time college football head coach who comes to Miami not to be even a coordinator, but to be a linebackers coach. So I'm looking now, guys, and obviously, I'm a Canes lifer. I love me some Canes football. I'm an alum of the school. I've been a fan of Hurricanes football probably since before I could walk and talk. I got the Jim Kelly throwback jersey, one of the jerseys now hanging behind me. So, I love everything that's going on down here in Coral Gables. But, we have to talk about the ambition and the blueprint. Okay, the ambition is not just Mario Cristobal. It's everyone above Cristobal as well. You've got a new athletic director who's been one of the most successful in the country at that very job, what he's done for about the past decade at Clemson, Dan Radakovich in. And when you go hire a guy like Dan Radakovich, obviously, the administration is serious. And yeah, that administration, Dr. Julio Frank and his advisors, Mr. Echeverria and Mr. Fernandez, I think finally understand you can't just half-ass these things in athletics, right? That when you really want to talk about tapping the full financial power of an ACC member institution, you're going to make a lot more money, especially in a place like Miami, where you've got, sorry to say it, but we got a lot of fair weather fans down here. A lot of fair weather fans. If the team is not doing well, they're not going to fill the stadium, right? I mean, how many times has Hard Rock Stadium on, times when Miami is playing against Duke or somebody or an FCS school, people send out those pictures. Oh my God, look at all those empty seats. Oh, you fit like 65K in there. You only have 20,000 fans there. Obviously games like Florida State always sell out. But yeah, listen, you got a lot of discerning individuals down in my neck of the woods in South Florida who aren't going to spend money on a team that isn't winning. And you know what? I respect it because some of the products we've had on the field at the U over the last 20 years, I would understand if you don't want to spend your hard-earned money on parking, tickets, concessions, those beers that they sell you for like $9, $10 there at the stadium. I could understand that, but now we have alignment and commitment from the president's office to the athletic director to the now very expensive football coaching staff and also to people in the community like the Ruiz family with this Life wallet. They're coming out and spending money left and right, and God bless them. And yeah, some of the usual suspects, Marcus Lemonis, who's been a big time, financial backer and booster of the program for a long time. The Moss family, Jose and Jorge are stepping up and really backing Miami financially. Dan Lambert from American Top Team. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. So Miami is trying now to cook up the recipe to re-enter prominence. So then you have to ask yourself the question, do they have the right coaching staff to do it? I think they've got all the ingredients. I think they've got all the ingredients to put that recipe together. And, and the way that I titled this episode, and by the way, welcome to those who are just getting in here. Make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, all that good stuff. But, I talked about how Mario Cristobal, can he compete with Nick Saban? He's been very vocal since taking the job that, yeah, he's using a Nick Saban blueprint. And of course, Mario Cristobal knows Saban very well. He worked for Nick Saban for a few years at Alabama. Linebackers coach, or sorry, not linebackers coach, offensive line coach. And Saban ended up putting Cristobal in charge of the recruiting department because, as Saban said it, this is the best recruiter in the country. That's now Miami's head coach. So Cristobal, of course, has got Nick Saban ties, having worked for him, and Saban was his mentor there at Alabama. You bring in your offensive coordinator, Josh Gaddis, most recently worked at Michigan, but he worked under Saban at Alabama. DC Kevin Steele, who's got a ton of SEC experience, including working under Saban at Alabama, and the most recent hire, and a huge hire to this coaching staff, your new linebackers coach, Charlie Strong, who's got a ton of experience, most recently NFL experience, although you might want to forget the 1 year you spent in Jacksonville, given the way things went there. But NFL experience, a lot of college experience. And yeah, Charlie Strong briefly had a cup of coffee with Nick Saban a couple of years ago, worked under Saban as an analyst for the University of Alabama. So you see a ton of Alabama-specific experience, a ton of SEC experience on the staff. And another thing about this, guys, is not only from guys who have that 6 degrees of separation between Saban and Cristobal, you've also got Cristobal with the way he's assembling this coaching staff. He's taken a page out of Nick Saban's playbook in this sense, okay? And you can't do this without a big budget. And I'm glad Miami has that now. I mean, Miami was like a poverty program, or at least claiming to be, for most of the last couple of decades. Well, it's like, oh, no, we can't pay our assistants 7 figures. Like we can barely pay our head coaches 7 figures, right? I mean, I think when Randy Shannon was the head coach at Miami, I think he was making like high 6 figures. He wasn't even making 7 figures, and now all of a sudden you've got to dish out 7-figure salaries for assistants. But something that Miami is trying to do, and yeah, part of this comes with having a budget. Miami's got a budget now. You've obviously also have to have a head coach who has built connections and has that personality where he's able to inspire people who are really overqualified for their jobs to work under him, because that's something I'm noticing now about this Miami staff. And you look at, what Nick Saban has done for like 2 decades now, almost 2 full decades in Tuscaloosa. You will commonly see coaches working as coordinators or position coaches under Nick Saban who seem overqualified for those jobs. Like, these are people who are former and future head coaches, college football or the NFL, that are working under Nick Saban as assistants. You're starting to see that now with Cristobal, right? And, you look at, someone like Josh Gaddis, not head coaching experience, but you would still say, hey, the guy who's the offensive coordinator of what was a very successful Michigan Wolverines program last year, got to the college football playoff. That guy's not going to leave for a lateral move, comes to Miami. A guy like Charlie Strong, who's, been a multi-time head coach in major college football, comes not even to be a coordinator, but to be a linebackers coach, right? Kevin Steele basically making a lateral move as well to come to Miami. You've got guys who seem overqualified for their positions, or you just wonder, why would they even leave the spot that they were in to take a lateral move? And that's what Mario Cristobal is doing here. And when you talk about this Saban stuff, I was reading an interesting quote earlier today. This was written by a gentleman by the name of John Garcia from Sports Illustrated All-American. I think he's the director of football for that publication. He says, quote, Cristobal has been there and done it before at many high levels. This is a homecoming for him. He recruited South Florida well for Alabama, as well for Oregon and for others. To think that he wouldn't be a threat to Alabama and others is quite ignorant. Now he's talking about recruiting, by the way. Like he's not saying like next year we're knocking Alabama out of the playoffs. That's not what he's saying. He's talking about recruiting. He's talking about in the trenches, competing for those 5-star players, those 4-star players that Miami really couldn't compete with programs like that in the past, can start to do that here in the near future. The different types of players he has recruited speak for itself, he writes. Now, Alabama is still Alabama. It would also be just as foolish to think that all of South Florida talent will just stay down there. Competing for national championships in NFL development will still pull some kids away from there. But priority number one for Cristobal, he writes, is keeping South Floridians home and also bringing them back home, which is the case for Porter, the corner that they just brought in. You know, they brought him back home after he had left the state of Florida. Mario has the right mix of guys around him, he says, guys who know the area and guys who have an external perspective to balance it out. Yeah, which is also the case for Cristobal. I mean, he knows the area, played and worked at Miami, coached at FIU, recruited the area heavily for Alabama, recruited it about as much as he could in Oregon because it's hard to get players to leave Eugene or to leave South Florida to go all the way to Eugene, Oregon. But yeah, he's got that outside perspective to go along with the inside perspective. So he continues, this Miami staff presents something that the Hurricanes haven't had over the last decade or so. The pipeline to Alabama for Florida prospects is certainly going to be harder to achieve now with the new coaches in the state of Florida. But at the same time, the allure of the Crimson Tide will continue unless the recruiting elsewhere combines with winning at a level that the current high school recruit has never seen in his lifetime. That is really what changes things long term. But it will be a new challenge moving forward, trying to mine elite talent from the state of Florida. And that's the big thing here is, and obviously things like Life Wallet and American Top Team and these NILs are important as well because you add that extra layer to it, right? Players aren't only picking a program based on how close it is to home, how many championships they're going to win. Guys also want to make the bag now, and I respect that. And by the way, I see our guy Brandon Liguori's in the waiting room. I'm going to bring him in just a moment. So, you know, listen, and I'm certainly not saying when I talk about competing with Nick Saban, I don't think we're going to see. I'm probably pretty safe to declare this. I don't think we're going to see anytime soon Cristobal in Miami knocking Saban off the perch. And I know that Saban didn't even just win a national championship, but he's in the goddamn game every year. I mean, right? I mean, even if he may not be the guy holding the trophy right now, he's been the most consistent at winning that for the last 20 years or so. So no, I don't think Miami is knocking Alabama off the perch. And there are other programs Miami would have to get out before they even reach Alabama's level. But I certainly think that, you know, in the case of Miami, which is in a unique situation compared to a program like Alabama, you've got a much easier conference. I'd rather play an ACC coastal schedule than an SEC West schedule. And as outlined in that quote that I read, the most important thing is, and this is what made the Miami program great 30 some odd years ago and why it stayed great for so long, was they had so much of that local talent locked up, so much of it. And it's the talent-rich area, the most talent-rich area for high school football, youth football in the entire freaking country. California and Texas come pretty close, but there's no substitute for South Florida. You're not going to keep every kid. There's not enough roster spots. Not enough roster spots, not enough starting lineup spots, not enough playing time to keep literally every single great kid down here. You're not going to nab all the 5 stars and all the 4 stars, but an ambitious staff like this, proven coaching talent, former head coaches, guys even with NFL experience, and what Miami is building in terms of the infrastructure and the facilities improving, you can chip a little bit away at Alabama's armor. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think they're really trying to kind of create Tuscaloosa South here. Another quote that I want to read here is from Josh Pate on Late Kick Cut. He talks about how, you know, the Alabama blueprint could play into Mario Cristobal's success and these coaches that he's bringing in with SEC experience. A lot of these names you recognize, maybe some you don't. He said, here's what Mario Cristobal's done with this staff. First thing he did was he went and got a whole bunch of guys who have coached under Nick Saban, as we talked about. A lot of connections there. Now, that's important for two reasons as it pertains to this Miami staff. Number one, it's because obviously you want folks who have seen that process play out firsthand up close. But here's the second thing, and I love this because I hadn't thought about this or considered it until I read it here in print. They, talking about these coaches he's bringing in, they appreciate the grind and they're not scared away by it. Mario Cristobal's probably had some guys on his staff in the last few years as a head coach at FIU and then at Oregon that were turned off a little bit by what that grind entails. And we know Cristobal. This guy is wired on cafecito 24 hours a day. He doesn't sleep. He's a vampire. You want to know why I'm not as successful as Mario Cristobal? There's one reason and one reason only why I am not as successful as Mario Cristobal. I sleep like 9 hours a night. That takes away a lot of my productivity. It's like 10 o'clock. I'm thinking about getting into bed. I wake up around 7. There's a whole lot of hours I spend in dreamland where Cristobal is grinding. He's recruiting. He's scheming. That guy sleeps like probably 2-3 hours a night on a good night, man. And yeah, he's bringing in other coaches that have worked with him before. Obviously, Alex Mirabal, the offensive line coach, is a very close friend of his. He understands and embraces that grind. Some of these other coaches that Cristobal has worked with at other stops, they understand his grind, but they also know the Saban grind, right? So if you can handle the Saban grind, you could probably also handle the Cristobal grind. So I thought that was really big. Let's bring on our first guest of the day. This guy does an incredible job. FinManiacs.com, good friend of the program. I'm a little bit disappointed, though, Brandon Liguori, because you're usually sitting in front of like a portrait of fruit. I don't see any pictures behind you. What's going on?
What's going on, Alex? It's been a little bit. I mean, I want to say the last time I was on the Donno Daily, the Miami Dolphins didn't even have a head coach, and now they finally find their guy. And I got to give you a ton of praise for comparing Mario Cristobal to Nick Saban when Cristobal hasn't even coached a game yet for the Miami Hurricanes. I mean, to even just put Cristobal's name in the same category as Nick Saban, as we know what happened in the season opener this past season when Miami took on Alabama. But hey, look, I mean, I do wish Cristobal the best, but pump the brakes. Just pump the brakes a little.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because I know I'm going to get a lot of reaction like that, and it's why I'm trying to remind people again. I'm not saying that probably because Saban's older, so he's only going to probably be coaching like maybe another 4, 5, 6 years max. Although that guy, he may be a robot for all we know. He may keep coaching forever. So no, I don't think we're ever going to see Cristobal at Miami knock Saban down a peg. But I think the most important thing for people to remember is when you're talking about basically reinventing and rebuilding a program, because Miami has been lost in the woods for so long that it's you've got to completely rebuild the culture from the ground up. I just hope that the Saban coaching tree is better than the Bill Belichick coaching tree in the NFL, because all of a sudden you're looking at Miami, including Cristobal, and now half dozen of his assistants, basically, you can link to that Nick Saban coaching tree. So I'm just hoping that they can kind of make Miami into a Walmart version of what they have up there in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I mean, and really, Alex, to, touch up on your point, I think what's really interesting about all this is when you take a look at the Hurricanes' schedule for this upcoming regular season, Texas A&M, Clemson. And, those are really two games that a lot of spectators are going to be looking at, because the number one reason why Mario Cristobal got hired was to see if he's able to win those big football games. Obviously, Manny Diaz, I mean, it's one thing when you're beating Virginia Tech, and it's one thing when you're beating in-conference opponents, but it's another thing now you got to go beat Ohio State, right? Because remember, Mario Cristobal, as a member of the Oregon Ducks head coach a year ago, went into the shoe and knocked off Ohio State. And, that again, that's really one of the main reasons why Cristobal is here. And really, to touch on your point again, Mario Cristobal really does not sleep. I mean, this guy was recruiting high school guys in his suit and tux. I mean, this guy just lives, eats, and breathes college football. And I'll tell you what, if he's able to get Miami back to what they really used to be back in, the late 90s and early 2000s with Jimmy Johnson, I mean, hey, I want to say Hard Rock Stadium is going to be, popping again.
Yeah, and I'm gonna pretty confidently say that Cristobal is building the best coaching staff Miami's had since the Jimmy days or even the Howard days, like the
Mhm.
Schnellenberger. And yeah, there's a lot of names like from the Jimmy Johnson tree at Miami where you recognize years later. But like in the case of what Mario's doing right now, you've never had a staff assembled
Correct.
of guys who are like all at the peak of their powers and careers on the same. I mean, it really is remarkable. And listen, I think a good segue to some Dolphin stuff, Brandon, is Brandon Liguori does an awesome job on Fin Maniacs. I love the staff that Mike McDaniel is putting together as well up in Miami Gardens. And listen, I want to start with, three guys who've got Dolphins connections. Wes Welker, not quite as much as the other two guys. He's one of the best slot receivers of all time. He had, a cup of coffee in Miami. And I got to find it. I need to maybe hang it up behind me. I'm not sure where it is, but I have somewhere a Wes Welker number 83 Miami Dolphins jersey.
There you
Like
go.
I was a fan. I was a fan of his while he played here. I know he's mostly known for his New England days, but Wes Welker coaching receivers, and you've got both Pat Surtain and Sam Madison on the staff. I mean, how cool is it? And these guys are good coaches as well, not just names.
I honestly, Alex, I really do think that hiring Wes Welker as Miami's wide receivers coach, we expected new head coach Mike McDaniel to bring some of his guys from the San Francisco 49ers. But the Wes Welker hire is really interesting to me, and here's why. You talk about how Welker is one of the most dangerous slot receivers in really league history, and we saw that a lot when Brady, the Brady to Welker. How can you forget the Brady to Welker 99-yard touchdown on Monday Night Football, right? Remember, 1st and 10 from the New England 1, and Brady throws a 99-yard dart, and there goes little guy Wes Welker. But I think what's going to be really interesting to see is, can Wes Welker now take Jalen Waddle to that next step, right? Because we saw Jalen Waddle, a dominant rookie season, breaking over 1,000 yards, and he really did stay healthy. I mean, Waddle missed, I believe, just one game this season, and it was because of COVID-19 protocols. But I think if he's able to build that strong relationship with, not only just Jalen Waddle, but Devontae Parker, and if the Dolphins are elected to re-sign wide receiver Matt Collins, guys like that, I want to see a veteran guy like Welker, who I'm sure is very well respected, not only across New England, but the 49ers as well. I mean, you got to remember, they made a deep playoff run that many people were not expecting, including knocking off Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau. So I think that's really the one coach that, I get really excited about. But, I mean, you got to really look at also Sam Madison and Pat Surtain. I mean, Pat Surtain's son, right, cornerback from the Denver Broncos. I mean, he looks like he's going to be a stud. And now you got a guy like Sam Madison who's going to be, I believe he's going to be the cornerbacks coach. So it'll be interesting to see his relationship with, Xavier Howard. And I've also heard some trade rumors in regards to Byron Jones. So, there's a lot of, we're still fresh into the offseason. I mean, the Super Bowl was, I believe, 12 days ago. So
yeah,
the offseason really just started. But no, to really touch on your point, Alex, I think I'm really intrigued to see what this coaching staff can do. I mean, and hey, look, now Tua Tagovailoa has another offensive coordinator.
Well, let's talk about some of these rumors, and you brought up Byron Jones. Do you think there's more than just smoke there? And also, like, I can even bring up Xavier Howard because we've had suspicions that maybe he wants to be traded. So what do you think happens in the secondary?
I mean, I think really when you take a look at those two guys first, you're obviously going to have to break down what their contracts are, because I believe right now the Dolphins, they do have over $60 million to the total cap. So they are, they got to fix the offensive line. Whether they draft somebody, I believe they have the 29th overall pick.
Yeah.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they had the 29th overall pick. So whether they grab a guy, I heard offensive tackle Tyler Smith out of the University of Tulsa. That's a big name to watch. But in regards to the secondary, I mean, so much money was spent towards Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. I mean, it would be kind of disappointing to watch Xavier Howard walk away, but it probably wouldn't disappoint me as much to see what the Dolphins would get in return. Let's say maybe 2 first-round picks. Let's say maybe even a first and maybe 2 second-round picks. You got to see how general manager Chris Grier and when other general managers and other team owners make that important phone call, I mean, really what the offer is going to be. But it's very hard to trade a guy like X. He's been really dominant since a year after his rookie season. I mean, we saw what he did even during a pandemic season. I believe he led the league in total interceptions. So it's very hard to just give a guy away like that. But at the end of the day, just like they always say, the NFL is a business, and you got to just follow business-like rules.
Well said. Brandon Liguori from Fin Maniacs is with us here on Donno Daily on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. So to throw a few names at you, tell me these are impending free agents. Which of these guys, if any, do you see back next year? Obviously, the two biggest ones, which are franchise tag options, Emmanuel Ogbah, Mike Gesicki, and I'll throw in a name you mentioned a few minutes ago, Mac Hollins. Like, out of those three, do you think they're all back, or who's not back?
So with the total, I don't really know the exact total cap on the top of my head, but I believe it is around the $60 million range. I mean, with that, you could really re-sign all three guys. And whether they get maybe a 1 year prove it deal, or even maybe Ogbah gets a 2 year extension, or Gesicki, it's really interesting now to see with Gesicki, because remember, the Dolphins have a new tight ends coach now. So now I believe John Embry, he's going to want to see what Gesicki's strengths are, what his weaknesses are. And I believe you and I can both agree. I mean, he's a dangerous pass catching tight end. I mean, I think you and I can, we can kind of sit here right now and we can both, nod our heads yes, that he is a very dangerous pass catching tight end. So really, when you take a look at these three guys, even bringing back wide receiver Mac Hollins, I mean, he was just a guy, he fits with what Miami's trying to do. And, his overall attitude, he's always just a positive guy. His name and number may not be called as much as Jalen Waddle or Devontae Parker, but when his name and number is called, I mean, he's usually making important third down catches. And remember, go back to Miami's win this past season in New York against the New York Jets. Tua Tagovailoa's long bomb, I believe it was in the third quarter, it went to wide receiver Mac Hollins, and that was a touchdown score. So, if you're not a Dolphins fan, you probably don't pay as much attention to Mac Hollins, but he's a very important guy in my opinion. Now, this is just coming from me. I mean, I would hope that, the Dolphins do their obvious due diligence, and I hope they do bring back Mac Hollins, Gesicki, and Emmanuel Ogbah, who on the defensive front this year, I mean, he was absolutely dominant.
Yeah, and it seems pretty clear to me that Ogbah wants to be back. So I'm at least I'm confident that he because Gesicki I'm not as sure about. Like Gesicki, I've heard some rumblings that he may be kind of have a wandering eye looking at some other places. But as far as Emmanuel Ogbah, he seems to absolutely want to be a Miami Dolphin again next year. Let's talk a little bit about Tua. He's been a huge topic of conversation. You mentioned we haven't done one of these interviews since Mike McDaniel got the job. One of the first pieces of video they put out there was the FaceTime of McDaniel talking to Tua on the plane. He's been asked about Tua by the media. Daryl Bevel, the quarterback's coach, he was asked about Tua on Tuesday when they had media availability. And, he talked about how, which is obviously the right approach, that you want to tailor the offense to the quarterback, not the other way around, right? You don't want to try to put the square peg into the round hole. You want to create your offense, and obviously McDaniel's an offensive guy with clear ideas and a clear system where they want to maximize Tua's strengths while hiding as many of his weaknesses as possible. And, obviously I'm a skeptic on Tua, so I know he's got weaknesses. And Bevel even said, hey, we know that he can make many of our throws. There are some of our throws he cannot make, and he's going to assess all that. So, but listen, I think this is a great thing for Tua, Brandon. I think that they're gonna really put him in a position that gives him a better chance to succeed than what the previous staff did. So, what do you expect from Tua in year 3? How big of a jump, if any, are you expecting?
I think year 3 for Tua Tagovailoa is going to be a very critical year, because here comes a new head coach, here comes a new offensive coordinator, here comes a new quarterbacks coach. I mean, these are 3 different guys that Tua Tagovailoa was not used to seeing in years 1 and 2, despite not starting for, a full season in years 1 and 2. But this is going to be a very critical year. The main thing for me, what is going on inside that building, behind closed doors? How much is Tua Tagovailoa really practicing? I mean, I've seen videos of him, doing multiple workouts, but one of the things that former head coach Brian Flores said And, I don't know if he really, publicly said it, but I've heard it behind rumors, and I've read a lot of tweets about this. He said that it felt as if, sometimes Tua Tagovailoa would rather play golf more than just practicing football. So I think with a new quarterbacks coach, a new head coach, and a new offensive coordinator, I mean, he can only get better, right? I mean, I don't think it is going to be a very tough schedule. I mean, I did take a look at the different teams that the Dolphins are going to face this upcoming 2022 season. You looked at teams like the Steelers, the Cleveland Browns, the LA Chargers. So we're finally probably going to see that Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert showdown that Dolphins fans have probably been waiting for since draft night of 2020. But, I mean, really, with a new quarterbacks coach, a new head coach, and a new offensive coordinator, I mean, could he get any better? That's really how that's really how I see it, Alex.
No, and I see, and a good thing, no matter which side of the fence someone's on, there hopefully will not be any excuses this time next year, right? And I'm sure, like, if they get like a free agent lineman who turns out to be hurt and sucks, then people try and say, oh, here's an excuse why he couldn't play. But hopefully we can put that behind us. I want to let you plug anything you're working on, Brandon. Of course, people who are watching this, they can see the Twitter account at Brandon R. Liguori. And what do you want to promote your work? Where do people find it?
So you can follow me on my personal Twitter account that is put on the screen. I'm currently working on a piece about Mike McDaniel's coach and staff, and really the 3 specific names to watch out for, and even players, if staying on the Miami Dolphins, players that are able to have a huge jump. So that's probably going to include wide receiver Jalen Waddle, wide receiver Devontae Parker, and even quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. Yes, I do think in his 3rd year, I think this will be a very important but positive year for Tua. So be sure to check all of our stuff on finmaniacs.com. And there's also a link on my official Twitter. I told Alex about it before. It's called Muckrack, where you're able to access all of my articles. I believe the last one that was posted, it goes back to maybe December-ish. I've been tied up with work and, trying to find a full-time journalism gig. So, but I'm on a consistent grind, 7 days a week. So
no, and that's the way to do it, because when you talk about, when you use the words full-time journalism gig in the same sentence, you might as well be talking about a unicorn. I don't think it exists anymore. You're gonna have to listen. You can't just have one job these days. 7 or 8 jobs, my friend. That's what you need.
Hey, and how about this though? And this is really shocking. Before I run, the Florida Panthers losing back-to-back home games. I mean, this is something, and I don't wager a lot on hockey, but I'll tell you what, if you're a big guy who wagers on hockey games and you put your money on the Florida Panthers, I mean, you've probably won a lot of money this year, but, you take a look at this current week, you probably lost a lot. And, especially last night, the power play was rough. I was in attendance last night. I'll be in attendance tomorrow afternoon. I sent you that nice picture that you and Frito has. I thought that was a very nice.
That's right. Yeah, they still that show hasn't existed for 2.5 years, and they still haven't taken the poster down, which is okay with me if they want to keep my mug in the arena. But no, and it's funny, and like Brooklyn Rob is saying, Brandon, the reason why the Panthers have lost these last 2 games is, and I kid you not, I have only bet on 2 Panthers games all season long, and they've been the last 2 games.
Really?
And I am a notorious mush. So like you mentioned, if people, and with the money lines and stuff, I'm sure it evens out a little bit. But like people who have bet like every game on the Panthers they're probably in the plus. But I am 0 for 2. I am 0 for 2 betting Panthers games.
Well, hey, what's really crazy about it is when you take a look at the Dolphins, the Marlins, the Heat, and the Panthers' status, South Florida right now, you can predominantly say it's all about hockey. And you tell a lot of people that, that live more up north, and they're like, wait a minute, the Florida Panthers? Like South Florida hockey? Yeah, despite losing back-to-back games on home ice, I mean, you can say they're in a so-called funk, but the way that they've been playing this year, I mean, 35 wins with really an interim head coach. Remember, Joel Quenneville was dismissed earlier this season. Andrew Brunette is not the original head coach that started the regular season. So, I mean, give credit. This team has been outstanding, and I'm really intrigued to see what they do come postseason time.
I haven't decided yet if I'm going to bet on them tomorrow, but I will consider if someone wants to pay me not to bet on them, I'm open for business. Brandon, thank you so much.
Now, before I do, the money line right now is Florida minus 200. So if you want to get a little risky and you want to drop $400 to win back,
well, what is the do you have it in front of you? Because usually with when the lines like that, usually I'll do like minus 1.5 goals because a lot of times you
puck line.
Yeah. So a lot of times because you get those empty netters, a lot of times the teams will win by 2. So. Yeah, if it's minus 240, I'll probably bet the minus 1.5 goals.
So right now the puck line, Edmonton plus 1.5 minus 145, Florida minus 1.5 plus 125.
Oh, I'm gonna lock that in all day. You kidding me? Oh, okay. Sorry, Panthers. I apologize in advance. Brandon, thank you so much, man. Enjoy your weekend coming up.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Love it. Just a second, we're gonna bring on our guy Vish P. And I want to remind you, friends, that, we have an official sports bar of Donno Daily, the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. I think we're going to have another Quarterdeck watch party probably within the next month because we want to sneak another one in before the Heat regular season is over. Guys, if you haven't been out to the Quarterdeck, don't even wait for our next watch party. Get your ass out there today. They've got 2-for-1 happy hour all day, every day. If you're looking for a spot to do your Friday happy hour, you don't even have to wait till 4 or 5 o'clock. They've got happy hour as long as they're open. 2-for-1 drinks all day, every day, my friends. And the beer is always so cold at the Quarterdeck. The seafood is fresh. I built my own poke bowl the other day when I went out there. The sushi is great. The fresh mahi-mahi. The burgers and sandwiches are on point. Make sure you finish your meal with the key lime cheesecake. It is delicious. So not only is the Quarterdeck an awesome place to grab a bite and grab a drink, it's a great place to watch a big game or a big fight. Heat games, Panthers games, just stay away from me because I'm the mush. But you can watch every UFC pay-per-view out there. Every UFC pay-per-view for zero cover charge. You pay nothing at door. If you want to find the location nearest to you, they're all over Broward County, or check out their menu before you go. Visit them on the web at quarterdeckrestaurants.com. The Quarterdeck, come for the food, stay for the fun. And we have an official sports book. Don't think that just because football season is over that there's not plenty of action you can get, guys. NBA games, NHL games, international soccer, which is really always going on. Even MLS soccer is coming back. They have your action at America's favorite sports book, BetUS.com. They're the 3-decade leader. They just wrapped up their 27th NFL season. BetUS.com has existed since before they even had a website. Before it was BetUS.com, it was BetUS. But guess what? BetUS.com is taking your wagers, and yes, it works in the state of Florida. You can access the full site, all their services in Florida. Not only can you bet on sports, including live betting, by the way, they've got a full-service casino right there on the site. I play blackjack in there for real money. It's really fun. Table games, slot games. It's like having Las Vegas in your pocket. And we got the best deal in the industry for you. When you sign up with our show code, they're going to give you a 125% sign-up bonus. So sign up with our code so you can get yourself that bonus, but also it gives us credit for your sign-up, which is a good thing. They know that, hey, Donno's actually out there doing the job for us. So sign up with our code 5RSN125. That's 5RSN125. Write it down if you can't remember it. 5RSN125. They're going to give you a 125% sign-up bonus on top of your deposit. You deposit $100, they put $125 additional dollars of free play money in your account. It is so good. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. One of our favorites, part of our Canes coverage here on 5 Reasons Sports. And I love he's got the old school baseball hat on. Vishnu Parasuraman. Now, Vish, first things first, was it comically ridiculous of me to have the words Mario, Cristobal, Nick, and Saban in the same episode title? Do you think that's offensive?
No, not at all. Nick Saban was praising Mario, so you go right to the source, and he's right in there, offering the same praise everyone else is. So,
by the way,
it's right, definitely legitimate to do that at this point.
By the way, hold on. Before we go any further, how do I pull up this super? Oh, here it is. Brooklyn Rob, I love you. So he is bribing me not to bet the Panthers. And you know what, Rob? I will honor it. So Brooklyn Rob leaves the super chat, $20. He's a Panthers fan. Every time I bet the Panthers, they take the L. They've only lost in games that I bet on this year, I think. So Brooklyn Rob is actually paying me off not to bet the Panthers.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah, it really.
I'd definitely pay more than $20 for a Canes win if I could lock that in. So.
Well, yeah, especially when you're talking Canes football, there's only 12 games, 12 guaranteed games per season. Yeah, I totally would as well. So, and listen, when I talk about, any comparison between Cristobal and Saban, like you mentioned, Saban has praised Cristobal. He worked under Saban. Saban was his mentor for a few years. I'm sure he learned a lot of the tricks of the trade from Nick. And then you also see Cristobal out there hiring a lot of coaches that not only have SEC experience, but in the case of many of them, actually have experience working under Saban the way that he did. Now, that's something that years ago we never could have expected to see on a Miami staff because they just didn't have the budget for it. Now they have the budget to bring these type of people in, and Mario is doing it. So, okay, Vish, let's attack this from two fronts. Like when we talk about the quality of coaches coming in, how can you see that improving not only recruiting, but also player development?
I mean, it's been one home run hire after another. I will say, we view Mario, he's a Miami guy. When they put up that picture of Nick Saban coaching tree, he's on there.
Yeah.
So I think one of the reasons he's able to pull those guys, one of the reasons Saban really likes him, is he learned under Saban. He's a Saban guy, actually. He's also a Miami guy. For us, he's always going to be a Miami guy.
Yeah.
But if you think outside of Miami, he's part of the Nick Saban coaching tree, and that's why he has a lot of these connections, which he's now using, as you said, to hire these assistants. I think one of the fascinating things, and we can go through the name, it's like an all-star coaching staff, but every single person he's hired has either come laterally from another major program, or, I mean, in some cases, like with Ponce, took a demotion to come from a lower program. We're not reaching for anyone. I mean, in the past, we've done things like, taking the OC from a lower level school, or, a quarterback's coach from a higher level school. In this case, Michigan's offensive coordinator, Mississippi's running backs coach. Obviously, the guys he brought from Oregon came with him. Maryland, even though he's barely their defensive coordinator, but Kevin Still's been with like several major programs. He gets Charlie Strong to be the linebackers coach. I mean, this is ridiculous.
That's a crazy one to me.
This is absolutely ridiculous what he's doing, and this is all about they believe in him. Everyone, it's the excitement around the program is not with the fans. It is, but that's not where the only place it is, right? It's with everyone. Everyone can see what is happening, and they want to be a part of this. They want to get on this train they want to get on this on the ground floor because it's going to go shoot up like a rocket. And they want to catch that wave and ride it, and that's what we're seeing here. That's why they're willing to do this. I don't think Charlie Strong's like, oh, I'm going to be linebackers coach forever. He just knows he's going to get a lot of exposure and be able to pick his whatever next. And I think a lot of them are looking at that and saying, I want to be on the ground floor of this. If I wait a year or two, it's going to be too late. And so I think that's why you're seeing these guys come in. So you're talking about the recruiting. I mean, these are all top recruiters in addition to top coaches, and so what you're going to have is the connections locally. Most of them have ties locally. The other thing is even like the Garner, the guy we pulled from Rhode Island, who was their wide receivers coach, he's not going to be one of our backroom analysts. His job at Rhode Island was to recruit South Florida. So even though obviously Rhode Island's not going after the same players we are, but this is all a relationship business. He'll know all the high school coaches in the area. He'll know all the administrators. He'll go in there with credibility, and now when before he might have been going after like the no star, the 2-star, 1-star, whatever that didn't have a lot of D1 offers, it's still going to the same coach, still going to the same administrators. Now he's going in there talking about the 5-star, and they know him. Like, that guy was here. He was willing to look at our less touted kids. I feel a lot more comfortable vouching for him. So Mario's got plans A through Z. He's executing them clearly with intent and purpose, and I think everyone can see that. And the other thing you get with him is he came from Oregon, which is a major program. He's got credibility walking in day one. He doesn't have to really convince people that he should be the head coach, and that's going to pay off big time with all these egos you're going to have, because these are all like highly successful coaches, most of whom, I mean, the guys we just listed, Gaddis, Steele, Strong, have been or could be major program head coaches. So you need that strong leader that they're willing to work for. So we got that. That'll also keep everything in check, as you have a lot of egos in that coaching room, right? So just having him in there brings that credibility. Like Charlie Strong's willing to be the linebackers coach because Kevin Steele is the defensive coordinator and Mario Cristobal is the head coach.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
all
crazy
related.
because if it had been the previous staff, like you would think, okay, obviously like Manny Diaz can't get Charlie Strong to be his linebackers coach because Charlie Strong is probably more qualified to be the head coach than Manny Diaz.
Exactly, and that's exactly, and so you're automatically lowering yourself to a lower standard of anyone you can attract.
Yeah.
You know, you got to respect who you work for. You cannot have the assistant coaches think, well, I'm actually more qualified to be the head coach. And I think there were several probably on the previous staff that viewed it that way.
Yeah, and then we look at the other stuff surrounding Miami football when it comes to the investments, right? The boosters and the NIL money that is coming in, like that goes back to what you were talking about, Cristobal's credibility. Because listen, if I had billions of dollars, like if I'm a member of the Ruiz family, I'm probably a lot more eager to start injecting money into a Mario Cristobal-led program than I was for, a Manny Diaz-led program or like an Al Golden-led program. So he inspires that other stuff. And when it comes to all the other stuff, like we see all of a sudden we realize, oh, Miami, like they were sitting on all this money. People didn't even realize they had it. That obviously doesn't guarantee success because I look at a program like Texas, who they can throw whatever money at anything and anyone, and they've been in a rut here for quite a long time. So obviously, investing in your program is not a guarantee of success, but it is something you need because if you want to be in the conversation with the big boys of the SEC and a program like Clemson, what they've done in recent years, obviously you have to invest in the right people, but you have to invest, period. So what do you think Miami's potential is, Vish? Like before we talk about the short term, because I want to ask you in a little bit about what you think they can do next season, but as far as the next 5 years goes, like can we see Miami kind of shift their reputation enough that they can really put themselves legitimately among the big boys again in the next handful of years?
Short answer is yes. I think if you're talking 5 years, the goal is to win the national championship in the next 5 years. I don't think that you don't put this kind of investment in. Again, Oregon's coach. We didn't go get like someone's assistant. We took a coach out of a program that was already on the cusp of making the playoffs on an annual basis. So how is that not your goal? So I mean, to me, when you put that investment in 5 years, yeah. But I think, even before that, this is a team that can compete from the playoffs already just because there's 4 spots. 2 will go to the SEC as is just standard practice, right? But the ACC itself is not that strong, and it's very easy. If you get through Clemson, who definitely was weaker last year, right? And we'll see how much they improve at the quarterback position because that was a problem, and that's not a problem in Miami. Then, if you get through that, if you win the ACC and you have 1 or 0 losses, you're probably going to make the playoffs. Which is realistic. Now, when they get there, they're going to be one of those sacrificial lamb teams. If they make it this year, probably yes. Like, if they show up against Alabama, they're not going to, keep the game close. But I think you could easily see them making the playoffs this year even.
Ooh, and okay, that's the perfect set. Like, so you say it can happen,
Yeah.
but I'd love to know what you think will happen. Because obviously, Miami does have, they do have reasonably good talent already, including a quarterback we're all very excited about seeing what Tyler Van Dyke can do, transitioning into next year. And now we're putting together what appears to be a world-class coaching staff. I also understand Rome was not built in a day, but like you mentioned, the ACC is not great. And I wonder what your expectation would be for a program like Clemson, because they had a down year. How hard do they bounce back from that? And what do you, if you're going to put a realistic goal on Miami football this coming season, what do you think we should expect year one?
So I think a realistic goal, I think a minimum goal is winning the ACC Coastal. I think a realist, like that's a minimum to me because again, the Coastal's the weaker of the 2 divisions. Clemson's not over there. You look at the other programs, there's a lot of turmoil. Even Virginia, who's been pretty stable, Bronco Mendenhall just quit for some reason.
Yeah.
To spend time with his family, they got to figure that out. Virginia Tech's got a new coach coming in. Pitt obviously won the Coastal last year, lost Kenny Pickett. They're going to have to rebuild there. So this is, even for the Coastal, there's a lot of churn going on. So I think that's minimum. If they don't win the Coastal, it'll be pretty disappointing. Now, looking at the overall schedule, at Texas A&M, at Clemson, that's kind of tough. Although, I don't know if everyone knows this, I was actually born in College Station, lived there. That's why I'm like a Cowboys and a Mavericks fan. So,
I did not know that.
So
I knew you were I knew you were a Cowboys fan. I didn't know why.
I'm also a Mavericks fan. The Heat fans are going to want to kill me. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I am going home. Actually, I'm going to a wedding there next month because one of my friends is getting married. But anyway, I'm going back for that game for sure. Anyway, that I always view that as like a program that there's no way Miami should lose to them, just because I've known it my whole life, and I'm like, that is not Miami's caliber. But obviously, they've become much stronger the last few years in the recruiting class. So that's a tough one. At Clemson, certainly a tough one. So you look at that and you're like, that's 2 potential losses that could, that would kind of knock out the playoff picture. But I will say, so in terms of realistic, I do think winning the ACC is realistic. They play at Clemson late in the season. That's on the road. If you give that if you play a good game there and you get them a few weeks later in the ACC championship game on a neutral site, maybe you can win the second time.
Yeah.
So I think realistically, they could certainly get to the ACC championship game and win it. So I would say realistically, winning the ACC, minimum winning the Coastal would be expectations for me.
Yeah, so a couple days ago, I was chatting with somebody, and then I kind of looked to see, like, is he just making this up out of nowhere? And then I saw a few people talking about it on social media. Have you heard, like, any rumblings about Jason Taylor potentially joining the Hurricane staff? Because obviously when you say Jason Taylor coaching, people are thinking, oh, he's going to join the Dolphin staff. I've actually heard him linked to the Canes staff.
So, yeah, no, there's definitely those rumors out there. It's hard to, keep the rumor. Mario runs a tight ship, so he's done a very good job keeping things under wraps while the fans panic, and then next thing you know, oh, that's who you were getting? Never mind. That was worth waiting for. It's been the trend, right? But yeah, so if people aren't familiar, Jason Taylor does still live locally and coach high school. He coaches at St. Thomas Aquinas, which is obviously one of the major programs in the country. So he is coaching at the high school level. So yeah, there are rumors that he's looking to move to the college level and that potentially, and stay in South Florida, which kind of lines up nicely. And given he's obviously one of the best defensive ends in NFL history. So you bring someone like that in with that cachet. There is also I'm gonna butcher his name, but they'll just call him is it Savoya or whatever, the veteran defensive line coach that Mario's got.
I would butcher that as well, because there's like, it's one of those apostrophes in there, like, I don't know what to do. So you've got like a veteran there for him to work with, so it's not like he's just going to do the defensive line by himself. But it's a great, I think, move for him. It's a good move for Miami too, grooming that next generation and building them up, because Jason Taylor is, a legend down here, and he's put in the work. Like, not a lot of people that reached the stature he did in the NFL, like, just known as like one of the best defensive players in the NFL for like a decade, right,
will then turn around and humble themselves down. I'm going to go coach in high school. Right, and he's already done that. And that's always the concern when you bring in like these guys that were superstar players. Are they really willing to put the work on the coaching level? He's already done that. Like, so I think this would be a home run for Miami. It'll help a ton with recruiting in South Florida. Everyone loves Jason Taylor in South Florida.
Yeah.
And it's also, you can't just have the rock star coaches. You do need to groom that next generation. And it actually, Mario's done a good job of kind of balancing some of that. Like, you can kind of see, promotion ready guys as assuming like some of these coordinators are probably going to get head coaching jobs. Like Gaddis is definitely. And then you got Ponce. Yeah, you got Ponce. Yeah, you're kind of grooming, and then you also stay with the analysts. Like DVD is probably going to go back to an analyst position because it was too soon for him to be the defensive backs coach. But now a year or two from now, natural progression into the front and into the on field. So it's all either kind of building layers. And Jason Taylor's a perfect, eventually ascend to maybe the defensive line coach, defensive coordinator, and rock it that way.
This is like, for South Florida football fans, I know you're obviously a Canes fan, not a Dolphins fan, but a lot of the people watching this are both. This is like the best offseason for nostalgia ever, right? I mean, you see, Cristobal comes back to the U, and like Jason Taylor might end up on his staff, and then the Dolphins have Sam Madison and Pat Surtain coming together. This is like this. I mean, for an old head like me who like grew up watching people like Cristobal and Madison Surtain, this is like the greatest offseason of all time, just for nostalgia. And you know what? So many times in South Florida, the offseason is better than the season. I hope that's not one of these years.
Well, yeah, and so we moved from Texas to Miami when I was 13, so I remember all of those guys being the legends. The Dolphins were, it's hard, I know some of you younger fans, the Dolphins are an institution. They're like when we moved to Miami, this was in the early 90s, like there was like, if you say like the top franchises in the NFL and you list 5 of them, Dolphins are on that list. Like, and what's happened over the last decade plus has been frankly appalling, because they've damaged one of like the great brands and franchises in professional sports. And certainly, even though they weren't winning this, everyone kind of goes back to who haven't won a Super Bowl since the 70s. This was a consistently strong, well-respected, well-run NFL team, really until the early 2000s. And Jason Taylor, Sam Madison, Patrick Surtain, the people you mentioned are part of that. They built a defense here that was ridiculous. And everyone knew, look, they didn't win the Super Bowl, they didn't even make the Super Bowl, but you knew when you played the Dolphins, you were going to feel it for a month. And everyone respected this franchise, and it is kind of sad where it's at right now. But it was even long past, because people are like, oh, they wasted Marino. Yeah, but those Marino team, everyone respected them. It just they never lifted the trophy, and so you get that retrospective like, oh, they weren't that good. Those teams were amazing. Something always went wrong. It's one of those snake bit things. Multiple losing home games in the AFC Championship game. Stuff like that where it's like, maybe that was the year they were going to win the Super Bowl and just something didn't work out. But yeah, so it's kind of sad to see where they are now. But yeah, you see those guys coming back, and it does kind of bring back those old. This used to be one of the model. Use the term model franchises. The Dolphins are definitely that, and hopefully it'll get back there one day.
By the way, I had to flash this because he was nice enough to make a super chat. But Shake Money, who you can see he's a Gator fan. Mario Cristobal, he says, is a Cuban Willie Taggart changed by. I mean, they do have the Oregon.
I'll change your mind. Willie Taggart, I believe, went 7-5 at Oregon in his first year. Mario picked the same team up and finished 5th in the country.
Boom. Right. That's why we have Vishnu on, because he can pull a stat like that. Just like I would have to research to come up with that. He just knows it on the top of his head. Oh man, I appreciate.
Well, I hope that 7-5 was right. I'm not that up on my Willie Taggart, but I'm pretty sure that's what they went the year before Mario got there.
You said it on the internet, so it's true.
It's true now. It's true now. Yeah, exactly. It's true now. But definitely, Mario did take a very similar team and was, I think, a bad loss away from making the playoffs. But they finished 5th that year, won the Rose Bowl. So
I like it.
Willie Taggart definitely did not win the Rose Bowl. Like I'll stand on that one.
And he created that god. The thing is, like Willie Taggart is a follower. Mario Cristobal is a leader. So Mario Cristobal comes into Miami and he realizes the turnover chain wasn't my thing. We're gonna go in a different direction. We're gonna get rid of the turnover chain. Willie Taggart, instead, when he was at Florida State, he saw, oh, Miami's got that turnover chain. I'm gonna design the ugliest backpack that any human being has ever created. And
is that a backpack or a man purse? Because I feel it's too. I mean, it's not really a backpack. I think you could do something with an actual backpack.
They called it a backpack. If you're actually going to like really break it down, it was more like a man purse than a backpack. You're right, but they called it a backpack.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the concept was bad. The execution was worse.
Yeah,
on that one.
It was
kind of like his game plans.
Yeah, exactly. Well, great stuff as always. Make sure you guys follow him on Twitter at VRP2003. And check him out as a part of our Canes coverage on the network. The Six Ring Show on YouTube, Wednesday nights, 8:30. It's an awesome place to be. And it's a good time to be a Canes fan. Basketball team comes off a nice win.
Yeah,
the baseball team is kicking ass.
Real quick as we wrap up, both the men on Saturday, women on Sunday is senior day this weekend. So if you're in the area and you want to stop by, both of them are playing their last home games. The women actually, tough loss last night. The refs screwed them. We're not going to go in on that. But they called 4 fouls in 2 minutes to start the fourth quarter and kept sending Virginia Tech to the line. It was ugly. But so they had been on a big winning streak. They actually are projected in the field in the latest projection. So they're also looking to make the NCAA tournament. The men, like you said, are solidly in. Baseball's 5-0. A lot of good things happening not outside the football program as well. So it's definitely an exciting time.
It's true, and yet still the most exciting thing is football because football
it's always football is football.
Always football.
Football is football, right? We know what pays the bills and what gets the excitement going. But yeah, you have this great football offseason happening while the other programs are also really performing well. So it's been a while. I was on the Six Ring Cane show this week. I was like, I'm out of my element. I have nothing to complain about right now. It's not comfortable. I usually write these like long ranty things. Yeah. I'm like, what am I supposed to write about? I got nothing to complain about. I got to figure something out.
I know how you feel. I mean, I last night I vowed to take 24 hours off where I don't troll Tua. Like, so I'm on it. I haven't trolled Tua Tagovailoa once today. Not on Twitter, not on the show, not in my personal life. So I'm It's not easy for me, but I'll stick to it. Vish, thank you so much, man.
I mean, what are you
Enjoy
going to do if he's actually comes good? So, I mean,
no, if he becomes good, I've been a fan the whole time. What are you talking about? I mean, I want him to succeed. I absolutely want him to succeed. So I
am interested to see what, like, having a proper quarterback coach will do for him, because the whole co-OC nonsense didn't really. So we'll see what happens there.
That was rough. And listen, if it doesn't work out, and I was going to say something, but it could be a troll, so I'm going to refrain. I was going to make a.
Let's just say
joke.
we're all okay. Let's end it this way. We're all rooting for the kid.
Yes.
Yeah. There we
go. Oh man, good stuff, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Love it. Awesome stuff there. I was about to make a golfing joke, but I can't. I took a vow of silence from Tua trolling. Don't invite mush. Oh man, I want to throw some shout outs before we wrap it up. Before we throw the shout outs, and I hold on, I gotta put my mask on because it's 3:00. So while I was in Jamaica for a week, there were 2 Inter games, Inter Milan, not Inter Miami. I have a huge Inter Milan supporter, and they played 2 games, lost both, didn't score a single goal, shut out 2-0 by Liverpool in Champions League, shut out 2-0, somewhat surprisingly, by Sassuolo in the Italian league. And the reason why that happened is I have a ritual when I'm watching games. I've got my lucky mask, and I didn't have my lucky mask in Jamaica. So that's why they lost both of their games that they played there. So I got to put this on. Pulling up the game on Paramount Plus. We're going to be wrapping up here in a few minutes so I can watch the majority of it. But yeah, I've got the lucky mask. Was part of an Italian league winning run last year, and will hopefully, God willing, be part of that again. But I need to make sure I have it on while I'm watching games. And also, I want to remind you guys, we have an official fantasy sports partner at the 5 Reasons Sports Network. They are doing big things at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is becoming an institution. You've probably seen the billboards. You probably got friends who are playing Prize Picks. Guys, if you haven't signed up yet, it's so easy. Download their free mobile app, Prize Picks, or go to prizepicks.com on your computer, and it just takes a few minutes to sign up. It's really easy to deposit. You can do it through PayPal. It's so easy, and it's so much fun. At Prize Picks, you're playing daily fantasy, but it combines my love of parlays with daily fantasy. It's you versus the numbers on Prize Picks. You simply select 2, 3, or 4 players, and you pick over-unders based on stats, fantasy point projections. So you select 2, 3, 4 players. You lock in these parlays. Guys, you can win 10 times your money for getting 4 predictions correct. It's so fun to play at Prize Picks. You can even go cross sport, by the way. Like, you can, if there's a night when the Heat and the Panthers are both playing the same night, you can select a couple Panthers players, pick their overs or unders, a couple of Heat players, and lock them in. If you haven't tried Prize Picks yet, find out where everybody's talking about it. And when you sign up, use our code 5. Our code is FIVE. Let me see if I can write it down here real quick. I mean, obviously, unless you're like 3, you probably know how to spell 5. See, that's our code 5, FIVE. When you sign up at Prize Picks, use our code 5, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. So they'll match it 100% up to $100. It's the best thing you're going to find when it comes to daily fantasy. Prize Picks truly is daily fantasy simplified. And make sure you're supporting our other awesome sponsors here on Donno Daily, the Quarter Deck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. 2-for-1 happy hour all day, every day. Ice cold beer, delicious seafood, awesome sandwiches and burgers. And it's a great spot to watch all the big games and the big fights. Every UFC pay-per-view, no cover charge at the Quarter Deck. You want to find the location nearest to you, peep their menu before you go, quarterdeckrestaurants.com. The Quarter Deck, come for the food, stay for the fun. And yes, America's favorite sportsbook, a full-service sportsbook, BetUS.com, available in Florida. Absolutely. Live betting on everything. Bet international soccer, NHL, NBA, playoffs coming up, the tournament coming up in college basketball. BetUS.com. Use our code 5RSN125. Write it down because I know this one may be easier to forget. 5RSN125. Sign up with our code, and they give you the best bonus in the gambling industry. You're not going to find a 125% bonus. That's what they give you. You're not going to find that anywhere else. You sign up, for example, with $100, they're going to give you $125 in free play money on top of your deposit. They even have a full-service casino right on the website. It's like having Las Vegas in your pocket. You can play table games, blackjack, slot games. BetUS.com, 5RSN125 is the code. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Oh, did Gianmarco? I think that I must have done something as well. I didn't realize Milan tied with Udinese because when I started the show, I stopped watching. I was watching the game and they were up 1-0, Milan was, and I stopped watching. And I think me not watching must be how they got the equalizer. They got a draw with Udinese. And also, I bet Udinese +1. Brooklyn Rob, did you hear that? I won a bet. I won a bet today. I locked in Udinese +1. Woo! We covered, baby. We covered. And Gianmarco, by the way, I have a bond with Gianmarco that I have with only a select few because he is also an Interista. He also supports Inter as I do. And listen, I love everybody in here. You support the Dolphins, the Canes, Heat. Obviously, I love everybody. We have sports teams in common, but Gianmarco and I have the Italian football connection as well. So I love it. IMAX, the luggage crew in here trying to clown the Florida State fan. It's magic what Miami is doing right now, University of Miami. I mean, guys, if anybody watching this, if you know the Ruiz family, help me get an NIL. I want to get that Life Wallet cash, bros. So put in a word for me. I will absolutely represent that family. I love the Ruiz family. I love your content as always, even if it's the trash cans. And Shake Money, I love you as well, man. I understand that we don't always choose our sports teams, and you're devoted to the Gators. I respect it. I've got some friends who are Gators fans. I've got some relatives who are Florida State fans. Like I've got people who share the same blood as me, who actually cheer for the Seminoles. I have Florida State alums in my own family. Isn't that crazy? No Gator alums in my family that I know of, but I've got Florida State alums in my family. And so, listen, I understand. Like, we can hate each other on Saturdays. We can get along the rest of the year. It is what it is. Now, G.A. Kane fan, I know he's Hurricane through and through. Hello, Ray. Love this guy. Brooklyn Rob, of course. He coined me as the mush. Chris, Finn's Tailgate. Support his content as well, by the way. He's got an awesome YouTube network. This dude's building an empire. Like, he's all over the place, man. Charles, thank you so much. He was trolling the Florida State backpack. Andres, thank you so much for tuning in today. By the way, guys, I can see, I'm glad today that the super chat is working again because we've gotten a couple of very generous donations. Something weird happened yesterday. I think they shadow banned me yesterday. Like, we dropped too many truth bombs on this show. Somebody wanted us to be silenced. I think yesterday we were somehow demonetized because somebody actually told me they tried to make a super chat and it wouldn't let them do that, which is very odd. And people notified me yesterday that usually get the notifications when we go live. And that's an option, but you don't have to do it. But if you subscribe to 5 Reasons Sports on YouTube, you can hit the little bell, the notification button, and every time we're live, it'll tell you we're live. If you don't want to be told we're live, you don't have to do it, but it's just, if you're interested in watching all of our programming, it's kind of a cool thing to do. And when we went live yesterday, the notification never came on. So somebody at Google, somebody at YouTube doesn't want my face on your phone or on your computer. I can't imagine why. I'm beautiful. I can't imagine why. Oh, DSCWO, thank you so much for tuning in. Oh, they're about to kick off the soccer game, by the way. So hold on. And guys, you may think I'm weird. I am weird, but I'm dead ass serious. I'm so superstitious when I'm watching Inter. Even if I'm sitting by myself in my living room, I have to have the mask on, and it's got to be pulled up over my face unless I'm eating or drinking. Like, obviously, if I'm eating or I'm not going to try to do it through the mask. But when I'm watching them play and they're about to kick off this game, Inter versus Genoa, I've got to have the mask on. Otherwise, calamity will strike. Something terrible is going to happen. Shake Money, thank you so much for the super chat. We love you. D. Roberts, thank you so much for tuning in. Indade, my guy. Nick, I'm going to watch some of these because Tobin's a good buddy of mine. I love that dude. So Nick Hicks, the trainer, who trains Tua. He helps Tua work on. Oh, God, I was about to say a joke, but again, I refuse to troll. Not today. So Nick Hicks, who works with Tua, I guess was on with Tobin. maybe a couple of other shows. I wonder if he would come on this show, because I don't think he likes me, Nick Hicks, because again, I've made a few tweets where I poked fun at a couple of his clients, all in fun. Like, you guys know me, I'm not a malicious guy, but he's come at me a few times on Twitter. So I wonder if I were to ask him to join the show, and I'd love to have him, by the way, and I'd have fun. Like, I'm not going to bring him on and like be mean to him like I am. I'd love to chat with him. I don't know if he'd be willing to come on, because I don't think he likes me. So you may not be able to get that here. David, thank you so much. Oh, by the way, and David was asking me if I wanted to talk about there's some video reviews coming out for that Star Wars hotel in Disney, the Galactic Star Cruiser. I watched a little bit of one of the videos you sent me. It looks pretty cool. I know that like the hosts who were doing the video were kind of like poking fun at it a little bit. It looked pretty awesome to me. The thing is, it's going to be so expensive. Like, what I don't know like what the per day rate is, but they said something about $6,000. Like, I don't know for how long. If that's one day, forget about it. But if that's even a week, that's a lot of money. Like $6,000 per person. So it was a little. Some of it looked pretty cool, but it's like if I could just go in there and just like tour the resort, that's one thing. But to plop down $6,000 to stay there, it looks insane. Let's see, who else can I shout out here? I think I may have already shouted out. Yeah, I already shouted out my guy, Gianmarco. He gets a double shout out for some reason because I clicked it by accident. Brooklyn Rob, thank you so much for the super chat. John Kennedy, you were one of my favorite presidents. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, I wasn't alive for the Kennedy administration, but I'm obsessed with the conspiracy theories around his assassination. So I've read books about it. That's how much of a geek I am. I'd love to know who was, and still, all the books I've read about it, I still don't really know for sure who did it. I don't think Oswald was acting alone. That's the only thing I'm sure of. But I don't know. I don't know who really ordered it. Color commentary. Thank you so much for tuning in, Dennis. Oh, and I'm glad I remember to pull this one up because Dennis. Oh, we got a shot on goal, but nothing yet. Dennis was asking any updates on Blue. Yes, on Larry Bluestein. I spoke to him on the phone this week, man, and it was a thrill. He sounds so good. Knowing what he's been through for the last month and a half, he sounded really good on the phone, and he's not quite ready to start hosting and going out to high school events and stuff yet. He's probably a few weeks away from that because he went through a really tough ordeal, and he's going through physical therapy. But for about the last almost 2 weeks, he's been back home. He's been doing rehab and some physical therapy at home, and he's doing so much better. And he's been spending a lot of time on Twitter. If you follow him on Twitter and Facebook, he's been doing some live updates there and talking shop with people. So it's such a blessing, man. Everyone who's prayed for him and who's donated to the GoFundMe, the prayer and all the moral support is working because he is doing so well relative to where he was before. And he's recovering. He's fighting. He's getting back there. He's gonna be the same old Blue probably within the next couple of weeks. Devin Jordan, thank you so much for tuning in. Dominic, thank you so much. I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. It was nice talking some Canes today. We haven't been talking a whole lot of Canes on the show recently. And comedians see no evil. Thank you so much. And I think that's it for the shout outs. And anyone who like just turned it on, they're like, why is this guy who's sitting by himself wearing a face covering? Superstition, man. My beloved Inter are playing right now. And so, they only win when I have the interface covering on. So I look like a buffoon. So I'm going to sign out. No, I'm not watching Norwich. Sorry. Although I may pull up multiple games because I do have it's 2022. I do have multiple screen capabilities. So yeah, guys, we're going to sign off in a moment. Make sure you're supporting our sponsors, our great sponsors, the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. BetUS.com. Sign up, guys. I'm telling you, everyone has fun at BetUS. Live betting on everything. You can bet on the soccer games that are happening right now. Live betting. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com and PrizePicks.com as well. So we will talk to you guys again on Monday. Wow, it's the weekend already. We'll talk to you Monday, probably 3 p.m. on another episode of Donno Daily on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. See ya.